welcome in to Trucker Talk Radio. It is Monday, April 7th. You're on with J and J. I'm John. This is Justin. Justin, how's it going? Did you have a good weekend? You got your Florida Gators shirt on. You're ready to go. What time's the game tonight?
Yeah, I think it's at 8 o'clock tonight. I think I'm raring to go. Didn't get to watch much of the semifinal game because we had all those tornadic storms coming.
All that bad weather there, and today it was on the East Coast.
Yeah, 4 days.
How'd you guys make out?
Where I live actually did okay. Earlier today, me and my daughter went and donated clothes, and I got a couple $100 worth of baby food and took up to our agri center for donations, and we drove up through the town because we're only about 15 minutes of where the major damage was. It's probably an F4. They say an F3, but I think from the damage that I seen just with not even walking the grounds, I believe it hit an F4. I mean, there was houses gone off foundations. I mean, it was pretty devastating in this one older part of town. We're lucky, as far as I know, as of right now, we only had 4 deaths in the city of Selmer, and then we had 2 more out in the county. But it should have been a whole lot more. I mean, because where it hit, it was a lot of rental houses and trailers and just older homes, which aren't going to handle, I think it was 160 to 170 mile an hour winds. So it was pretty devastating. Our schools are out probably all this week too, and it started on Wednesday.
Wow, really?
It's a big deal. Of course, everybody's come together. I will say I believe where I live is kind of like the new Tornado Alley. I even seen a thing since January 1st.
Now you're in between Memphis and Nashville?
Yes, yeah, right. Basically, might as well say on the Mississippi-Alabama line. I'm 30 minutes from Mississippi and probably 45 minutes from the Alabama line. So I'm pretty south, about 2 hours to either Nashville or Memphis. Memphis might be a little bit closer. But we get a lot of tornadoes every year. Our county has a tornado, at least one that touches down with massive damage. We missed last year's by less than 2 miles. And then actually my subdivision I live in now took a hit less than 10 years ago. So but I was saying this stat, like Mississippi has had the most tornadoes on the ground so far this year, like 86. It's crazy. And back where it used to always be in Oklahoma and Texas, Kansas, they hadn't had very many. I think Texas only had 21 so far. We had that many just in our state, but we had 3 tornadoes come through our area on Wednesday night, Thursday morning. I mean, it was crazy. So just glad that everybody is okay, that it's getting by, and then to see, like I took my daughter today. I wanted her to go, just not per se to see the damage, but just seeing people coming together. You never see that in good times. You only see it, in tragic times. But I think it was good for her to see, hey, this is what you do when you're blessed. Hey, go donate some stuff. Go buy some stuff and give to people that need it. And she even said it to me. She said, "Hey, it could be us one day," and it definitely could be. I mean, it could. You don't know. I mean, I was watching the weather all night and kept waiting and looking at where the storms were going, and they just kind of went left of us or went right of us. But one could easily just went straight and came right into our town. So it's just tough. I did see where this one person had just bought their house in Selmer, made one payment, and then the house is gone. I'm like,
yeah,
that's just bad karma there.
That's awful. Yeah, I saw. So I guess ABC News is reporting that there are 23 dead from the storms. I heard there's a boy in Kentucky that was waiting at the bus stop, 8-year-old boy, and got swept away by floodwaters.
Oh, I don't doubt that. Floodwater has gotten really bad. I mean,
it's really bad. I mean, in Kentucky, I saw that the water in Covington, which is the town right across the river from Cincinnati,
yep.
The water is like, as this morning was just below the top of the street sign. So, really, scary conditions. all across that area. So I'm glad you guys made it out all right.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, we
Looks
were,
like power, electric, internet, I guess, was an issue there for a little while, but
yeah. Now we've
sounds
been
like
blessed
you got unfortunate.
miles, that's for sure. But we were right on the leading edge of that whole store system. Like even Saturday night, we didn't get any storms. They started doing coverage at like 11 a.m. But we didn't get storms till 7 o'clock because of how it was going northeasterly. It was just crazy, and they'd just pop up, just anywhere. And because
Yeah, they showed a truck stop out by you. There was a truck stop where a bunch of trucks were just thrown all over the place.
yeah, I mean, it was still 80, probably 82 degrees at 7:30 Saturday night. It wasn't as muggy as it was Wednesday night. Wednesday night was hot. I mean, it was muggy. It felt like being in Florida right after a rainstorm, where it's so just so humid and sticky. But
Yeah,
even
yeah, that today.
yep, yeah, it's typical Florida weather there for sure. But what's crazy is we had frost warnings this morning. So go figure. I don't know what time. I don't know what fall season, winter, spring. I don't know what we're in right now. We go from every season per day, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
So Florida is the heavy favorite tonight. We'll move on to some little bit more pleasant news, talking about the national championship. Get into that because that's your Gators right there, and it's big down here. I mean, everybody here in Tampa is going nuts over the Gators um, being in the championship game. So it's a big deal, and I think I've got them picked to win over Houston. Um, but we'll see. What are your thoughts on it?
we I don't really know. We seem to play different than we did during the regular season. I don't know if they don't take some of these teams as serious because we don't seem to come out the gates very well. But
Hmm.
can tell we play very good together, and when we need to get it together, those guys get it together and get it done in the last 5 to 6 minutes. I think they had like a 11-0 run or something in the last couple minutes of the semifinal game that kind of put them ahead for good because they hadn't really been ahead most of the game. It was back and forth or they were down by 5 or 6. And it seems like almost every game was like that, which is good in a way. They're able to not get cocky or overhead. But I think with the top four being the top four seeds, I don't think you can really take anybody for light. I mean, I think you can look at the Duke game and Houston game. I think Duke had a
Yeah,
90.
did you see the way that game ended? You
It
see
was,
how that ended? It
yeah,
was nuts. They had it well in hand with a minute and a quarter left.
they had like a 95 or something percentage chance of winning. I mean, it was if you would have put a bet down on that with a minute 20, because you can do live betting now. They ain't no telling what the odds
Hmm.
were. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
You just, March Madness is so different than really any other sport because you just don't know. Houston's not a surprise by no means, but, just for that kind of a comeback or all the Cinderella stories over the years or
yep. And
the
if you
create,
have Clayton Jr. put in, what do you put up, 34,
yeah. I mean,
34 against Auburn?
it's
I
just
mean, you
crazy.
got no shot.
No, no, and I think we should win. I hope we play a little bit better. I want it to be a good game. Of course, I'd love for a blowout, not have to ever, be upset. But I've been a Gators fan long enough. We very rarely do it the easy way. We've had a couple, more in football. Back when we dominated football, I didn't have to ever really worry too much about national championship games. We pretty much, other than the Nebraska game, which I still say that
That's
90
right.
the 92 Nebraska team, I think it was. They were by far the best. That's the best football team I've ever seen. They were pretty. They probably could have beat some of the lower end NFL teams that year. But with basketball is a game of runs. It's
It is a game of runs. Yep.
just back and
Yep.
forth, and you get hot, or you both get cold, or the defense picks up. So you just really never know until the last few minutes of the game, really which way it's going to go, unless the one team just comes out cold and can't hit anything, and then they get dominated. But I am
And really, with today's talent, it's never out of hand. I
no,
mean,
no, no. Everybody. everybody's got an A and B player. The C players are pretty much what I think a lot of times makes the difference. Your A players step up, for sure in the crucial moments, but the really good A players, they're not like Jordan was back in the day, where Jordan just was the offense. A lot of these really good players now, they try to get their teammates more involved, which sometimes good, sometimes not, because you need to get scoring and get going. But it's those what I call grunt players, the guys that play the defense, that scrap, get the rebounds. Those are the guys that truly make the big difference. And
Right. Win the 50-50 balls for
yeah,
sure. Win the
exactly.
50-50 balls, like you said, scrap around and it's the guys like, that have high talent and have hopefully the high IQ where they're not, hogging the ball. I always
Yep,
like to say, and they share, they put their teammates in good positions, they're unselfish. Those are the guys that know how to win championships.
that's right. Yeah, so I am though. I'm really excited. I'm ready for it to get going and see how we play. I did see where I think the SEC is going to get like $70 million from this or something. It's
Oh, I'm sure.
they've got 30. They get 35 units, which I think the record was in 2016. ACC got 25 units, which I guess is a game played because you get paid for how many games you get played. But yeah, they're going to bring home like 70 something million this year, which is crazy.
Unbelievable. And then you take into account, like, did they ever say what happened with there was a ruling that was supposed to come down on April 7th. So today it's supposed to today's the 7th.
Yep.
Yeah, a ruling supposed to come down on the NIL. I don't see that any decision has been made.
They
Um,
it's out of hand already. It was better off before they messed with it. It really was.
well,
It,
there's no cap right now, and pretty much any school with a major donor is they're going to do well. They're going to take it and run with it, and it's who's that player is of course going to go with the highest bidder, and where does it stop? Where do if it's 2 million this year, and is it going to go up to 4 million next year for the top player? I mean, where does it stop? And where it could get to the point where you're making much better money in college than you would in the NBA.
well, I mean, Cooper Flag I seen staying. Why
Is
is
he
he?
staying?
That's what I read today, and said he made that announcement before the Final Four. Now, you know how you can get spam stuff on the internet, but I did see it, and I'm thinking, well, he might be getting so much money to stay, and he probably doesn't need the per se money. So why not enjoy just playing basketball and having
If
a
he stays, that would change the entire, land. What if he went somewhere else besides
oh,
Duke?
I know it. That would shake. Well, you even look at women's sports. Most women in basketball, they play all 4 years before they go pro because they make more money. Which is good. I'm glad they're able, because I actually like women's basketball. I think it's actually a better sport to watch than men's, because they scrap, and they go all out every play, where a lot of guys basketball, it gets more backyard, just throw up the three a lot of time, which I know that's the culture and everything now, but yeah, it's already on the women's side that they just they'll stay, like I think that Livy Dunn, some people were getting mad at her. She's an Olympic uh gymnast for LSU, and she's like the highest paid NIL person, and
Oh, I'm sure.
she stayed, ended up being in college for like 6 years because she got the extra year because of COVID, and everybody was mad at her. Like, well, how can you get mad at her? She's getting like $7 million a year to do what she loves doing, and there's no money for it after the when she gets out of
Yeah.
school. I mean,
No,
she.
get the money while you can. And I get upset with people who say that, these athletes are paid too much money and they shouldn't leave college early and all this other stuff. What do you go to school for? What are you going to school for? You're going to school to better yourself financially, get the best job you possibly can, And these guys, I like to say they have a genius. It's their genius.
Mm-hmm.
It may be on the athletic side instead of, intellectually or, but instead of
Yep.
having book smarts, they are an athlete and they excel at athletics. That is a genius that theirs. If I'm a scientist, I'm a genius on that side. If I,
Right. You
so
got to.
the whole point of going to college is to make money. So I've got no problem with these guys making whatever their genius demands. I mean, you have teachers getting mad, and I think teachers should be paid more. I think, I would love to see, but teachers also don't have people paying $200 a ticket to go see them play on Wednesday night, you know?
Yep.
So,
You're right.
you can't argue. If you wanted to go that route, you should have, focused on, your sport and your genius. I mean, it's
Well,
just like business owners. I mean, people get mad, the business owners are making, so much money, or CEOs are making so much money. They sold this company and they're complaining about, oh, he's worth, billions of dollars. Well,
yeah.
you don't realize what it takes to suffer through and go through the hard times. You just see the end result. You
Right.
don't see what they've gone through all along the way. I mean, I'll use me as an example with Ready App. I mean, it's 2 years of growth with no money,
Yeah.
no money.
Sit
So
back,
it's
and then
yeah,
have board. Yeah, I can only imagine with that.
yeah.
Well,
So
it's the same thing with I don't think they understand about these athletes. You know, like my daughter for an example. Now, she's not playing anymore, but when she and most kids are like this now because of travel sports and stuff. My daughter was practicing five days a week and then playing on the weekends, and she was a top level pitcher at her, young 8 to 10 years old range. Kids do that all the way up through high school. They don't have, when my daughter was playing sports, she didn't go to birthday parties. She didn't go spend the night at friends' house. We played ball every weekend, and
yep, we did the same thing with hockey, and then now we're in cheerleading with our girls, and they missed parties this weekend.
yeah, they do. And so when you combined all that, and then they're able to cash in, you can't blame them. I mean, because if you want to be a top tier D1 athlete where you are getting some NIL money, yeah, you might be the most athletic kid in the country, but if you don't put the work in for whatever your sport is, you're not going to be very good because the people that work hard will be talent every day of the week. I mean, that's
Hmm.
true, just tried and true. And these kids take a lot of sacrifice. And a lot of kids play multiple sports,
Well, and
and
they're also in the public eye. I mean, they're in the public eye. They're heavily scrutinized. They've got to be on their best behavior. They can't go out and party and drink like all these,
nope.
these other kids and that chose a different path. And there's nothing wrong with that path. I did it. There's
Mm,
nothing wrong with that path at all. But, these, I think, I have zero problem with them, making money through NIL. I think there should be a cap on the NIL. I think there should be, some kind of, regulation put in place to control it a little bit. I don't think it was ever meant to be this way.
mm,
I've said that before. I don't think it was ever meant to, for schools to be paying this much money. It was meant more for advertisers. It's name,
yeah,
image, and likeness. So it was more for, if the kids are getting an autograph, they can make money off that. If kids are, you know,
yep.
doing an ad for a car, dealership, they can get paid off that. And, now it's turned into like, kids are getting salaries to go to school.
Yeah, they just get these. Well, they all started these collectives. And it has nothing to do with NIL. It's just all these boosters put their money together and then pay whoever they want, basically, like you said, a salary. Which to me is worse than what it was beforehand when they'd give you a new car to drive. Yeah, you knew it was going on, but it wasn't just so awfully number wise. I mean, it's the one thing I don't like either is some of these schools, and Florida might be one that does it. I'm not saying they don't. But I know some of the other SEC schools have been very bad about this. They will go after your top tier player and offer them millions and millions of dollars to transfer. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if the kid comes to you per se school and say, "Hey, I might be interested of transferring over. What you gonna give me?" Well, that's a product of the nightmare that you've created. But the school should not say anything to a student that's under per se a contract. And it's just like free agency in the NFL. You can't talk to another player. Why now? The problem is you can get around all that with representatives and all that, and have somebody else talk to them where it's not them. But these kids, and most of these kids don't grow up with very much, and you start offering them, multi-million dollars. I don't blame them. I couldn't say no to it. I mean, and I didn't grow up that terribly, but you offer me $1 million to go play a sport that I love, sign me up. You gonna
That's
next year other schools gonna give me 2 million? Yeah, hey, sign me up.
right.
So I get it, but it's just like you said, if they had a cap where like the SEC schools are only allowed to spend this much per sport, the smaller conferences, your uh, uh, CUSA and all those can only spend a certain amount, to where each school is more, has to really budget and be on a level playing field. Like Big Ten, SEC should be on a level playing field per school. Now, your schools like Vanderbilt or Rutgers, Mississippi State, those schools, and two, a lot of people don't realize either, like in the state of Mississippi, they can't pay but certain amount. I don't know how they truly get around it. But
Oh, is it controlled by the state?
well, like the state colleges are. That's why, like the football coaches, they can only make a certain amount of money. They can't make over a certain amount of money. They have to
In
go.
Mississippi.
Yeah,
So,
and there's
so there's
just
a cap. Huh.
hmm
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah. Now it might have changed in the last couple of years, but that was always what was talked about. That's why Ole Miss always lost their coaches to Auburn and different places, because they can make a whole lot more money. And like Mississippi State at Starkville, it's not, it doesn't have a lot of money. I mean, there's not much anything in Starkville, and it's just a small little town. And it's not fair for even them. I mean, they've got some big boosters and all that, just like everybody else. But even when you just say a conference can spend the same each school, it's still not going to be fair, because some of them schools I don't know can afford it or not. And so it's always the same. The rich get richer. I mean, that's pretty much anything in life.
Well,
It's
hopefully they come calling for Trucker Talk Radio. Hopefully they come calling for Trucker Talk Radio real soon. We get some NIL dollars or what
guaranteed.
for name, image, and likeness. I am wearing the Trucker Talk Radio. You can't see it, I don't think, right now, but I am wearing the Talk Radio shirt.
Okay.
We're going to put it on our website. We're going to start selling it on there. It says TTR on the front, brought to you by Ready App. And then it has a nice American flag on the other shoulder, and then our cool logo on the back. We sported these at the truck show, but hopefully
Yeah, got
they come calling soon for our big NIL agreement.
man. Yeah, I'm ready for that. How's our numbers? Have we? I know we didn't do much last week.
Going up. I mean, I think we're approaching about 300 listeners. I remember
Awesome.
first show talking about, or it's second show talking about how we had I think we had 5 listeners or something like that.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. Is that since we're still. I mean, we're still learning what we're doing on here.
still in our infancy stage. I mean, we got to get a legitimate producer to give us some topics. Right now, we're going off kind of we're
Yeah,
going on the fly here and just kind of winging it and
yeah,
talking about current events. And I think we're pretty smooth. I think we're doing all right. I think we get we need you guys, we need you listeners to message us and tell us, give us some constructive criticism. Tell us what you want to hear.
right.
Uh, what do you think on these? If you want to talk tariffs, we can talk tariffs. If you want to talk basketball, we can talk basketball. Um, we don't want to just talk trucking.
No,
We do want to talk about what's going on in the news and what's impacting you. How are the tariffs? Are you seeing any impacts from the tariffs? I don't think right now. I think there's a lot of uproar about nothing right now.
I
And
do
I
too.
think this, Trump is negotiating. He is, um, what do you call, I can't remember what he called um,
Well, the
he
main thing,
called, he
right?
called everybody, he gave us he gave the people who are all concerned and nervous a new political party name, like you're a panicking or something for, panicking about these tariffs. But, you know, I really think it's going to be fun. We got to get on an even playing field. We, if introducing these tariffs eventually lowers the percentage that we're seeing from countries like China. I mean, they've said right now that they've had 50 countries come to the table
Mm.
wanting to negotiate those tariffs down to nothing. So we've been taken advantage of for how long? And we're finally starting to see some adjustments. You have Netanyahu today coming to the White House to, talk about, coming to an agreement, coming to the table. We're Trump is, definitely ruffling some feathers, but he's working. He's doing something. He's treating the country like a business, and
Yep.
he's getting us the best deal.
Well, one thing then, and I learned this years ago when I used to go to China a lot, and I think it's one of our major downfalls as Americans. We as Americans, we do not think down the road. We're always thinking about today and yesterday. We're not planning things out. Trump, as a businessman, is taking what he was dealt with how the government's been run all these years, and he has a plan. Now, this plan's not going to work in a week. It might take 2 years before these tariffs take into effect and work in the way that he wants. And that's one thing that I was always admired about the Chinese. They would lose money now to make millions 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yep.
have to start thinking that way because we are so far behind in so many things that I don't think a lot of the normal Americans that never leave the country ever realize how third world country like our airports are. Our airports are terrible compared to the
They
policy,
are.
in the world, and the just the infrastructure of jobs. We've subbed out all our jobs for years, so you
We
can't.
have, and we're taking in all these supplies from other countries. We are not sending out supplies. We're not sending out food. We're not sending out livestock. They had a rancher on today. He's like, we're getting in all this cattle, all this beef from other countries, from like Australia, for instance. We're getting in all this from Australia, and he's like, I don't send my cattle anywhere. They don't get sent overseas. They don't get sent to any other countries. He's like, so you know, I have America, and that's great, and that's it. But we should be on. It's because we're not on an even playing field. We should be sending. He should be sending over his cattle, his beef
Yep.
to to other countries all around the world.
Yep. We should only be sending our what we don't need. We are so self sufficient for most items. We don't need to bring it in, but when the money is not right, it hurts the American worker, the entrepreneur, and I don't
Yeah,
think.
think about our manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about them, and they're just doing business in our country. Imagine if those manufacturers were doing business on average in 10 other countries. Imagine the increase of jobs and the
Yep.
increase of money into our country. We need to be able to send stuff out. Why aren't other countries buying oil from us?
Yep.
That's what should happen. That's going to change everything. It's going to increase jobs. It's going to better our infrastructure. Trump is getting people to invest in America. We are so far behind. I think I told you at the truck show. I heard somebody, I was walking. They had all these booths. There was like 4 rows of nothing but China.
Mm-hmm.
actually it may have been 6 or 8 rows, but there were several rows, and it was all Chinese booths
Mm-hmm.
setting up at truck shows, selling their products. How often do our guys go over to China and set up booths at their shows? I would
I've
say not very much.
I've been to a couple shows. I've been to the world's largest one in Beijing, and I think it was Beijing. But yeah, no, there was very few Americans. There's a lot of Europeans there, but there wasn't a lot of
Yeah,
Americans.
I'm listening to these Asian women talking about how over in China they scan their palms to get into different shows or get into security or whatever. Their palm is like read by this machine,
Yep.
this laser machine, whatever it is. Um, and we don't have anything like that.
Mm.
Nothing. And the technology's there. Why aren't we as advanced or more advanced than China?
Yeah, if people, in my opinion, really knew how far behind we were in technology, to like the Asian countries, they would probably be more scared because even when I went 20 years ago, the technology was, and we've probably caught up since then, of course. But I even remember, I guess it's every bit of 20 years ago when I went. I could actually talk in an elevator on my cell phone. I still can't do that in some areas, and I never. Now, China
You're
is
right. You're right. You always drop a call in an elevator.
never did over there, and that was 20 years ago. Plus, now China's huge in cities. Don't get me wrong, but when you leave a city, there ain't nothing out there. I mean, you'll get a few houses that work rice paddies and stuff like that. I always had a signal. I always had a signal. I live in a couple thousand, population town. I don't have good service. I'm one bar. That's where I'm at right now. One bar.
I live in a decent part of town in Tampa, and I drop calls all the time.
I mean, it
And I
makes
have Verizon. I drop calls all the time.
I have AT&T. It makes no sense to me how you can go to China and you can be on the phone all day long, but here it's spotty. And back to your point a few seconds ago as well. I think one misconception's always been, and why the government puts this out here, I think, to make you not want to go to tariffs or to try to bring prices. Oh, if we can't afford to make there, we can't afford it, it'd be too expensive. That's why Walmart's 85% Chinese or Vietnamese products. Yes, that partly is true, but you have to start like what Trump's doing, so then eventually we can be able to produce that product. Yeah, it might still be a tick more than what you get it from China based on how the negotiations go. But if we're bringing in tons of jobs, then our economy grows, which our dollar, you'll get paid more, your dollar will be worth more, and then it offsets it. And that's the only way. You have to sacrifice in the beginning to get anything good at the end.
No one wants to sacrifice.
No.
Everyone wants the here and now. It's just like, when
Yeah.
Biden started handing out all that money and the PPP money and all these, this access to all this cash
Worst
you
ever.
get, and everybody was like, yes, give me more, all this free money, give it to me, give it to me. And I
Nobody.
remember talking to my buddy who's pretty smart on this, and I'm like, are you worried about this at all? Are you worried about how much money we're printing? About inflation? That was before inflation really took off. Are you worried about any of this stuff? And he's like, no. He's like, we'll get through it. We'll just let's think. I mean, this is good for us now. It's good for the economy. We're going to put the money right back into the economy. We're printing all this money, and then look, all the prices skyrocket.
Yep.
All the prices skyrocket. And you know I just don't understand how, like, these Democrats out there right now are protesting. There were mass protests this week about the price of eggs. No one said anything about the price of eggs or the price of gasoline when Biden was in office. No one
No.
said anything.
No.
I don't understand where their mindset is. So that, and the hysteria across the media over Trump's tariffs, over anything that he's meeting with leaders. He's actually doing the job. He's sleeping 4 hours a night. He's
Yep.
he's moving at a freaking lightning speed, and these people are upset, and and like I said last time, I think you see people get upset when they're losing something that didn't belong to them in the first place, and it's like student loans are now becoming due. Student loans weren't due during the entire, because I have some. Student loans weren't due during the entire Biden administration.
Right.
So now student loans are coming due. Everybody's upset. Everybody's mad that they've actually got to pay on. You haven't had to pay on your student loans for the last 4 years.
Yeah. That's right.
And now they're coming due, and now you got to make payments, and now
Yep. No,
it's
it will.
and people are just in an uproar.
Yeah, I was always like, well, hey, I didn't go to school. Why can't I get some money then if you ain't gonna make them pay it? Because he was talking about doing away with having to pay it all, and which I wish I do think, and I think we've took some good turns. Now I don't know if in Florida, but like here in Tennessee, you can pretty much go to community college for free, and gives
Yeah, my
anybody.
son did it. He that it's such a smart thing to do,
It
because you
is.
can always get into the bigger college after 2 years and save that money.
Exactly. So go that route because, like we've said on this show before, a lot of times it don't matter what your degree is. And I don't go waste your parents' money and get some stupid degree just to get a degree. But the world has changed about, hey, you have to go to school, and when you go to school, you got to have this bachelor degree and this subject matter to have this type of job. It seems like that's went away a little bit to where they just want to know you can go to school for 2 to 4 years, be disciplined. You're away from mom and daddy. You get up, you make good grades, you go to school, and you got a diploma.
Well,
And
they want you. Experience means more. Experience means more than anything else, and that was even the case in my day. I mean, when I got out of college and went to go get a job, I got picked over on a few jobs that I interviewed for from guys that had zero college, but they had 3 to 4 years of experience,
yep,
and that was worth more than a college degree. I mean, I had one guy tell me, you majored pretty much in beer the last 4 years. I mean, and we've got this guy who's been in the workforce. He's been doing the job for the last 3 years, so we're going to
right.
take him.
Oh, that's great.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Was you
I
good at
just I mean, huh?
it? I said, was you good at the beer drinking part then?
I was at beer and bourbon. Yeah, I was very good.
Because that's all you Kentucky people drink the other week we was up there. I didn't. I think I was the only person drinking a beer. Period. I think.
Well,
But
so what's your favorite beer?
Coronas, Corona.
Corona.
I
Okay.
like King Tao, which is a Chinese beer, and I like a Bahamian beer called. Dog, it's been a long time. Chink, chink, conchink, or something like that. It's a Bahamian beer. It's really good. You can get it in Florida though.
It's a
Uh,
Bang beer.
no, it's Bahamian, Bahamas.
Oh, Bahamian beer. Okay. Yeah, I'm a big
Monster.
Guinness fan. I've actually beer messes with my stomach a little bit, so I don't drink it as much as I used to. I love a Corona by the pool. And then I like Guinness a lot too. Guinness is probably my favorite. Guinness on tap, not in the bottles. I like it on tap. I think it's smooth. Um,
Mhm.
it's actually one of the lower calorie beers out there, surprisingly,
Yep.
for a dark beer. And then I like some seltzers. I like High Noons. Um, I like those by the pool a lot, and then a bourbon. And I don't drink a ton. Usually on weekends, I try and keep away from it during the week, but on the weekends, I'll do
Now you like your banana nut bread in your cup now.
it. I
Wasn't that
do
what it
like
was?
that. That's one of my favorites. Oh, I did just so did you hear about this deported man who they're saying was deported incorrectly? He was an what
Mm-mm.
was it, MS-13? He was an MS-13 leader. Did you see this?
No, I didn't see that.
So he was deported to El Salvador. He was deported there apparently by mistake. And have you seen these massive jail cells?
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
massive jail cells where they I think we talked about that couple shows ago. Where they load like, I mean, it's something like, it's more than 100 guys in one big cell. I think it's like 250 guys in one big cell, and they have these bunk beds that are stacked on top of each other. It is a miserable place to be and to end your life. So
Yeah.
someone from the United States, an MS-13 leader, got sent there apparently by mistake, according to the libtard media. He was sent there by mistake, and some small district court yet again
Oh yeah.
tell Trump that the Trump administration, that he needed to come back. And the thing is that guy is now in in the hands of the El Salvadorian government, and they can't get him.
Hmm.
And so now they put out an order saying that someone from the Trump administration needed to go and communicate with that government and bring him back home. This is a criminal. This is a criminal charged with various crimes.
Why we need
He's
him
an
back?
MS-13 leader, and apparently they're making him out to be this big family man, and they want him to go. They want to go get him back. Well, now, and this is where we're going to go with everything. The Supreme Court just ordered freezes on the return by this mistakenly deported man.
Mhm.
So they just ordered a freeze. They said, there's no reason that we should have to go back and get this guy. He's a criminal. He's in our country illegally.
Right.
He's not a citizen. And just because he has children here now does not make it so that he should have to be here.
I
So,
don't think they just do that to put it in the media just to try to make things look terrible for Trump instead of
they're coming after Trump with every every little thing they can get their hands on. Um,
oh.
I just,
Well, what don't make no sense to me, and I'm not a smart politician person. I kind of just believe what I want to believe and don't believe certain things, and I just move on with my life because I don't try to let a lot of that stuff affect me because it really doesn't. If you just push through it, the like the fuel prices being high, you just push through it. You can't do nothing to change it. But it's like the dang gum Democrats aren't thinking like, well, we got 2 years to get something positive for us for the next election. It's like their hatred for Trump is so big that they're their own worst enemy. I mean, because yeah, you're gonna have those diehard left people that's gonna go blue. It don't matter what they say. They could say anything, and the hard lefts are going to vote blue. I mean, that's just the way it is. But that's not going to win you any type of election. You've got to have the regular Democrats and some of the middle people that's in between both sides. And they do absolutely nothing to make me think that they are persuading that
they have
undecided.
not learned any
No,
lessons. And I
no.
thought after this election, you would see them go back towards the middle, kind of blue collar Democrat. Um, you know, the middle is where you want to be as a party. That's where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be
Yeah.
too extreme on either side. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that
No.
after the Democrats got blown out of the water, that they would come back to the middle, find a new leader. They're talking about
Leader. Yeah.
Kamala's one to run again.
They just don't want to. They just don't want to do nothing but complain because I mean they do nothing that makes sense to help their party, base get more stable and grow. It's just they're like school kids that get their feelings hurt because they got told they couldn't do it, so they just outlash. They don't. sit back and be adult and figure, well, okay, well, if I start doing these things, the teacher's going to let me do it. No, they just lash out. And it's just the damnedest thing I've ever seen. Because, we went back and forth from Democrat to Republican for many years, in presidency and in the other judicial systems of, Senate and House reps. But I've never seen anything like this. And I've been through quite a few elections, with my age now. And it's sad because I have no problem with the Democrats and Republicans, even if there was a third party. I don't have a problem with any of that. Everybody should be able to
Mhm.
have opinions about everything and try to push their initiatives. I totally get it. I like that a whole lot better. I don't want a king and queen. I don't want any of that mess.
No, none of it.
But it's just like, wake up. You just got your ass handed to you because of your own issues. That's the main. I mean, Trump, I'm a huge Trump supporter, don't get me wrong. But I promise you, if the Democrats would have stayed on a straight and narrow and not been so dumb and how they did things, Trump probably wouldn't have won. Because there's enough people out there that they can swing the narrative for the Democrats. But they got so butthurt. They just, I mean, they opened the door so wide, anybody could have walked that door, I think, and won because of just the hatred of Trump. I mean, yeah, and people should wake up when they see that. I'm sorry. I've always said, and I'll say it to the day I die, a businessman should be the leader of the free world, not a politician. Politicians don't know their ass on the ground. They just don't. They just know their little inner circle and the people that control. And the things that you have to do to make things positive, you're going to hurt people's feelings, and you have to be kind of, even Trump's, on the red, he still is kind of in the middle per se. He's because you have to work deals, just like when you're a business.
He, I
You
think
don't
he's
always
and I what gets me. I think he's a blue collar Democrat. I think he's pretty much he's extremely moderate. He gets along with everybody. He asked who's the comedian on HBO, the who did Trump meet with? He met with him like a couple days ago. John
oh
oh man, Trump meets with
well,
comedian.
as a producer they'd be on top.
This is why we need a producer right here, because he or she could tell me
Yeah,
immediately. Who, who did he meet? Of course, it's not shown on here, but he's on HBO.
but I mean,
Um,
I agree
it
with you.
doesn't matter.
Blue
But anyway,
collar.
Trump extended his hand out to me. Was it with John? I can't. I don't know.
Need a lie.
But anyway, Bill Mayer. Bill Mayer, that's who it was. Trump had a meeting with Bill Mayer.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Mayer loved him. He loved him. Trump showed him around the White House, showed him the Lincoln bedroom. Um, Bill Mayer said it was an honor to be invited by Trump. And that's the way this needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
You get stuff done by that way. I mean, I've got liberal friends of mine going off on Facebook this weekend over nothing, saying Trump's a racist, still throwing the same crap out that they threw out in 16 and 17 and 18, saying that he's a racist when he frees an older black woman from jail. He makes it a point to bring her to the White House. He didn't just free her from jail, bring her to the White House. He brought to his congressional address. He brought in a black
No, the brain.
10-year-old or 11-year-old, raised him up, and the Democrats couldn't even stand for this poor kid who was deputized by an FBI agent,
Yep.
and they're just it just baffles me, the stuff that they're complaining about. They're just making crap up, anything they can to come at Trump. And then you've got people like Bill Mayer who go and take an invitation to the White House. He says he had a great time with Trump. He was down to earth. He's doing the right things. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of things that Bill Mayer doesn't agree with, but they saw eye to eye on some things, and now the liberals are roasting Bill Mayer for going there.
Oh yeah. Well, you think about it. Let's say you're an up and coming Democrat that has got ambitions of the White House. You know, you're the next Barack Obama that's kind of under the radar, and boom, it don't take but one speech or something, and you're getting on everybody's radar. Do you really want to be associated with this Democrat Party in the way? Because really, you get one chance at the White House. And if you can't make that run, it's hard for you to go 3 or 4 times to finally get to that point. You don't see a lot of guys that the first year they're sixth in the run and they drop out and they get to the third spot the next time and then they become a president. It don't happen that way a lot of times. So, you know, the people that the Democrats need to help bring their party back to, in my opinion, just respectful and be a part of the conversations for the country. The really good politicians, they're just going to sit back and go, y'all just keep making the fool yourselves. You're not going to put me out there. You know, that's, because they make a mockery of everything. And they're just not planning, which I'm fine with, because I'm more than fine with, Vance or whoever the next, one in line is to come in, to keep doing it, because I appreciate what they're doing, especially at the moment. But I don't know how they expect they can. I guess that's why Kamala's still the number one choice. Who really wants to step up and be in
They
that
don't
mess?
they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody, and these people are the people that are out there protesting are often paid. They don't know
Mm-hmm.
what they're voting for. They're voting on party lines. They're out there for the costumes and the trans rights and you know homo rights, gay rights, whatever you want to call it. They're out there for that. They're out there to support those causes, but they don't realize that Trump hasn't done anything to other than to say that there's two genders. There's two genders. Period. That's all that Trump said. I don't Beyond that, I don't know how you can say that he's racist. I
I
don't
mean,
know how you can say that he's done he's that out there he's done more for the black community than Biden ever did.
oh yeah, he probably did more for the black community than Obama did. To be totally honest, uh, I mean Trump. And I've said this before on the show, and I'll always believe it. Trump is the kind of person that can go talk to a homeless person and to the Chinese president within 10 minutes and never change who he is. There's
Right.
not a lot of people in the world that can truly do that. And which makes you a good person, makes you a good negotiator, which what we need as a leader. And we need it bad because we're so out of whack as a country of what we were, X amount of years ago that.
Well, we really were. I mean, did you see? There's a video of Nancy Pelosi in the '90s saying that we need to get rid of these unfair trade practices. We need to raise tariffs on foreign countries. She's speaking to the House saying this stuff. It's exactly what Trump's saying. There's video of Schumer saying the same thing. So what happened? What the problem is they're all talk and Trump is all action. And
Yep.
that scares them because Trump's doing exactly what he said he was going to do from the very beginning. Those people have been saying the exact same thing and not doing a damn thing about it. They don't do anything.
It don't sound good. But if they would have done those tariffs back then, none of this would have been as dramatic.
No.
What we're having to do now is dramatic because it's went on for so long. You can't just go, well, hey, we're Canada, we're going to bump you 15%. You're still bumping us at 65%. That don't work. We're still in a negative. We've got to bump them for the exact same percentage. in all these countries. And but if you'd have done that, 20, 30 years ago, we probably wasn't that large of a difference. We might have been off 20%. Well, you could have probably dug in 10 more percent and would have made a big difference. But now I mean, you got to go bold, and I don't think people understand that and Trump as well. Yeah, and he's been better, in my opinion, this term about his harsh and how he speaks. Sometimes you have to be that way. You have to be stern. Just because you're the leader of the free world, don't. I mean, Biden's a prime example.
Mhm.
It didn't matter what Biden said; nobody was listening except the Democrats. There wasn't nobody listening. Putin could care less what Biden said. He probably never even read he probably didn't care. Never even picked up a paper or had somebody tell him because it didn't matter. He was going to do what he wanted. Trump's different when it comes to that. People have to respect him when Trump knows he needs to get a little loud or a little out there. He does it, but he does it all
He
for a
doesn't
reason.
look. I mean, he put Ukraine in there. There's a ceasefire going on right now. You don't hear the media talking about Ukraine anymore. You
Nope.
don't hear him talking about Russia. He's going after Putin. He's
Mm,
not in bed with Putin. He's going after him, and he's making sure that he adheres to that ceasefire. And he's working behind the scenes as we speak. And you don't hear. I'm looking at it at MS. I like to say MSDNC. Uh, there are 11 things for the daily things. There's not one thing on here on Ukraine. Not one. And a couple of weeks ago, it was like the end of the world.
Yep.
What Trump did to Zelensky was the end of the world, and you don't see a single thing. And because Trump's fixed it, he's
Yep.
fixed it. He negotiated. He was stern. He used force, and he said that we're ending the fighting.
That's right. And I mean, I hope there's more people than I think out there that understands that he does a lot of business tactics, which I can't stress enough. That's what we need as a country. It's not because I'm a business person or you're a business person. I just understand business enough. That's how you get things done.
Well,
Politics.
where it matters for us is he's going. What I think these tariffs are going to be good for is they're going to be good for American manufacturing, and why I think we should continue to talk about this is because
Mhm.
I think ultimately, I mean, if it's good for American manufacturing, that means it's good for American trucking. And that means
Exactly.
we're going to need more trucks and we're going to need more drivers. And when you need more trucks and you need more drivers, rates go up. Rates go up. So that you got to support what he's trying to do. He's trying to bring back the what our country deserves. He's trying to, increase jobs. And when you increase jobs in manufacturing, you boost the trucking industry. You boost
Yep.
it. And you've got to support that. If you're a trucker out there, you've got to want this because it's going to take a little bit of time, but my God, we just went through one of the worst downturns in the trucking industry. We're always going through it's a, kind of a roller coaster ride. And this has been a freaking long downturn for how many years now? 3 years are we into this?
Yep.
And it's starting to go up. But if you want to keep it up and you want to keep it up for a long period of time, you got to bring manufacturing home. You
Yep.
got to bring it to our country. You
On the way
got
to
to
create.
start moving goods around here, and then that's going to create demand for more trucks, and it's going to increase rates. That's the only
Yep.
way you increase rates.
Supply and demand. I mean, that's as basic as business gets. And I hope, I know there's a lot of guys out there that's going to disagree. I hope moving containers gets slower and slower and we do it more of our own product because I'm not a big container fan, not for the simple fact of, trade and all that. It's just, it's a pain in the rear end to really do.
Well, what needs to happen is we need those container moves, like in and around Memphis or whatever, or in and around out in California. Ideally, we get manufacturing plants in and around the ports or in and around your major cities. And then
Yep.
you've got local and regional moves all over the place because there's so much freight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We just and it's almost like a trade. I don't know that that'll ever happen. I mean, or it's not going to happen in the next, couple. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot
oh
of work to do. We rely on China way too much, but what our trucking community needs to understand is if we improve American manufacturing, that's going to increase your trucking rates.
yeah,
You get
more jobs,
I see it that way.
more jobs, more manufacturing, more products means more freight. I mean, it is that simple. But it's going to be a tough patch till we get to that. But because that, in my opinion, that's the biggest need of trucking in America is more freight. There's just not as much freight as it used to be especially because of the demand of drivers and trucks that's come on since COVID. We've gained a lot of trucks and lost, freight, and so that just puts it, to where the rates are where everybody be. So I hope that's what happens. That's my thinking as well. I do think that in the long run, if we can gain manufacturers, we'll gain more, you know, in-house freight for our guys out there and women, and it would just make it better because I would love to see where there's more freight out there than trucks. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but that would be nice to where the driver and owner op was in a little bit more of a demand than what they are because there's so much more trucks out there than freight. You kind of lose your leverage in negotiating, and I
You
think some of
do.
the
You
good about
do. I mean, and we had it during I don't think we'll ever get back to where we were during COVID. I think that's a once in a lifetime type deal.
I do.
I do think rates will continue to tick up as they have been over the last several months. Um,
I
you
keep
know,
hearing
but
third. I keep hearing third quarter's the magic number, so I'm curious to get to the third quarter. I heard a lot of people at the show talking about that, so I hope to see a good intake in the third quarter. I don't. No one really gave me a reason why the third quarter, but everybody was pointing towards the third quarter for some
well,
good.
hopefully, I mean, first quarter's never good, so we're out of that. So, um, you know, second quarter is always a nice little uptick.
Mm-hmm.
And so they predicted at the truck show in 2020, they were like, everybody was like, what, or no, it's 22. Sorry, not 2020, 22. When everything was going so well, we heard some whisper like, watch out, it's going to drop here soon. And we just couldn't believe it because everything was going so well. I mean,
Right.
everything was flowing so smoothly. We didn't have to worry about covering trucks. We had drivers going home with $7,000 a week. And we thought we had another, year or so, before we saw the end of it. And then just the bottom dropped out. I mean,
Right.
it was awful. So,
And it ain't. It's been that way ever since. It's just been a tough road. Well, hey, I want to do a shout out
yeah.
to a pilot uh, location and off Interstate 40 on exit 42. We talked about this. One of the first few shows we talked about drivers, what they ate, how they were staying healthy, because I was complaining about not being able to find really anything to eat. This is a brand new pilot. There was a pilot there before. I haven't stopped there in years. I don't really go that part of I-40 anymore. But I was coming back from the truck show and I had to stop, and I wasn't planning on it because the pilot that was there was an old rundown one, and they'd just built a brand new one. So I stopped. Very nice. They had a couple different little restaurants in there, but one thing that I did want to mention, and I talked to one of the guys on call there that night or working. They actually had a hot dinner buffet,
Really?
which really I sat over and thanked them for it. I didn't need to eat it because I wasn't actually hungry when I pulled in. I was mainly just getting fuel
And
because I
and tell us the location of that again. Tell us one more time.
Yeah, it's exit 42 on I-40 coming out of Memphis. It's in Mason, Tennessee. It's a brand new stop. I mean, like I said, they used to have an old one, but man, they had meatloaf, fried chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese. They had two or three other vet corn, and it smelled good and it looked good. Now I don't know if it tasted any good, but I thanked them for it, and I kind of told them where I was come from that weekend and what I do, and we talked about it on the show a few weeks ago that you know the poor truck drivers, they deserve better food, and there's not usually a lot of options. Every once in a while you'll stop at a pilot and they'll have a Denny's in there or something, or you know, I mean, they don't really have restaurants, I don't guess, in Loves. They're pretty much fast food,
No,
and
usually there's a McDonald's in there or Burger King in there, and
way.
it's
And
yeah.
I like fast food just like anybody else, but this is some of the most fattening food that you can eat. And I mean, I've got the same problem with weight gain. I sit at a desk 12 hours a day. I try to exercise when I can, but truck drivers don't get that luxury. They're sitting all the time. So I told them how much I appreciate it. So any guys, if you're wanting a good home cooked meal, I would suggest that it's in a better location than any of the truck stops you'll stay in Memphis. Because the pilot and the Loves in Memphis are both in very, very, I can't stress enough, very dangerous locations. So man, I would go in there. It's clean, like I said, it's brand new. It's nice. Had other food. They had pizza and a couple other things like that. They had a Subway. They had a little hamburger joint on the other side. It looked like more of a local thing than actual, like a franchise. But I was very impressed. I've not ran into any other pilots like that yet, and I don't Loves really. I've never seen one. So if you need a safe place to stay or a good, just feel like home cooked meal, if you're on I-40, exit 42, I told them I'd give them a shout out the next time that we went live because I appreciate it. For the truckers, you deserve a good hot meal. I can't express that enough. But I wanted to mention that. And then one other thing I wanted to tell you before we get off tonight, and I know I kind of told you a little bit about this, but I want people to understand my side of the trucking industry when it comes to recruiting. So, I recruit on all different platforms. I call and talk to hundreds of drivers. I at least talk to 100 new owner operator or company drivers weekly. Uh, most gals and guys are the most pleasant people in the world. Most of them are just down to earth, love trucking, wanting to move freight and wanting to make a living. But I don't know how I got so lucky, but last week I had a guy respond to one of my Indeed ads. Nothing different. I called. This guy was probably the most entertaining, hateful, weird person I'd ever encountered in my about 5 calling. This guy, he first answered it was for a owner operator position. He told me some foreign. Now he sounded American, but he gave me like a Spanish name of who did his ad for him. But he didn't do it. But he was looking for a job. I'm like, okay. So then I figured out he was an actual owner operator instead of a company job. But he said he'd take either job. Well, as soon as I told him who I was trying to give him a job with, it was an American company, of course. He went to raising 10 kinds of hell about how American companies were stealing all the money from truck drivers. So I tried to be pleasant in the conversation and was explaining, yes, I know there's bad companies out there, American, but a lot of the bad companies now are the companies out of Chicago. I don't know why Chicago became the nest egg for scammers and bad MCs, but that's just what the deck's been handed to us. And then he went on to say he was a lawyer and that he had done sued United Van Lines and a couple other companies for payroll issues or something. I couldn't quite understand what he was suing them for. So I politely asked him, like, "Hey, why don't you take your degree?" Because he lived up north anyway. I think somewhere near Chicago. Like, why don't you go after all these MC numbers that are just terrorizing the industry. Oh no, they're the best people ever. And he just kept on talking about how they none of them did that. And I'm like, sir, I'm on the phone with hundreds of people a week. I hear the same story. You know, you hear a story once, you don't believe it. You hear it 20 times, there's truth to it.
Right. And
And
you experience it, there's truth to it.
yeah, exactly. And I'll be honest, he was out there, and he got so angry. I mean, before I got off the phone with this guy, he was back talking about the Civil War. And I don't know how we even got on the Civil War, but he was talking about North and South, and that I had a baby with my sister. I mean, he went all killing the South big because of my accent. And I finally got off the phone with him, and I appreciate the 10 minutes of wasting my time, but the entertainment because couldn't pay that. But there's so if you ever talk to a recruiter and he might not be in his happy mood when he answers, he might have just got off the phone with a crazy guy because I had to say I had to take about 30 minutes off after I called the next person because I was frustrated for sure. And he was, man, just an idiot. I mean, he's just out there, man. I'm telling you,
Well,
he was.
sometimes on those recruiting calls, and I haven't been on too many lately, but sometimes on those recruiting calls, you're just on there to be a therapist. I mean, you're just on there to listen and let the driver hasn't spoken with anybody in 2 days, and it's just
Yeah.
really just there. You're there to listen and hear their side of the story.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. When I used to dispatch, it's been 4 or 5 years ago now. I always felt like a therapist. You either had problems with the company they just left, you had, spouse, parent, their wives had issues, and they were, or just in general of trucking. And that's one thing that I commend myself on how I recruit, and now I'm glad to be a part of Ready App. Is at Ready App, we're going to have, certain customers that we work with, of course. But with us having a broad range and multiple carriers that we work with, we can actually help company guys and owner operators find that right fit. We're not going to be, always recruiting, as most recruiters are, you're recruiting for one company.
You're
And
recruiting for that specific company, and you're like, "Come here."
yeah,
Yeah,
we're the
Ready
world.
App. We've got a list of companies, and we're gonna hopefully put you in the right spot.
Yeah, and so I'm really proud of that because that's kind of how I've always done my little business. Was I've always been blessed to have a couple different companies to recruit for, and I always would listen to the driver to try to figure out their needs or what they're looking for and figure out who the best fit was because that's what you deserve. I mean, to me, that's common sense, but most people, we don't use common sense anymore. And, so I appreciate the opportunity for guys and gals to put them in a better situation because most of the time, as we've talked on here numerous times, you're coming from a terrible situation. And, with Ready App, I think we're going to have a lot of options that you can find the right spot. And then the good thing is, if it ends up not being something that you like about it, it's not going to take you 3 weeks to get rehired somewhere. And
Right.
I do applaud that system, and I think the more and more that people see it and get used to it, I think it's going to be well received, and because it's all as we say on there, it's for the drivers. I mean that's why
Well,
we
it's for
do
the
it.
drivers, and even you guys that are listening that are small carriers or maybe operating under their own authority. We're working with insurance companies right now, getting ready to set that up to where they're going to want you to have a Ready App profile, is what we're talking about. They're going to want you to have so your profile is complete, so it's done once, so you can basically you know get what you need to get done one time, and it solves all your problems for submitting to the insurance company, for applying for that job. And another thing that we're tossing around is for the DOT. So when you get stopped by an officer, all your stuff is already loaded on the phone, and they'll just scan a QR code, and then they can get your information, and then make it as simple as we possibly can for you, the driver. That's the goal. So that's the direction we're heading. The insurance company is something that we, that kind of
I just kind of
just showed up at our doorstep at the truck show. I wasn't really expecting that, but it is a need. And
yep.
for carriers trying to, especially smaller ones and even the bigger ones, trying to add drivers. You're constantly chasing paperwork. The insurance is constantly asking for more and more paperwork
Yep.
that the driver has but may not have with them. But if they've got them with them in their ready app profile, all they got to do is share that information and it's done. And the driver may have done it, a while back, and then they don't have to worry about it. It's one time, and then you can submit your information with a few clicks, and you don't have to go, helping the insurance company chase down documents. So,
Well, and it's like I told you the other day, one of the best things that I have as with one of my apps is my insurance app. I don't have to keep up with my insurance card anymore. I don't have
mhm.
to keep up. I leave my wallet at home. My CDL is in that app. And if I get pulled over, boom, I just open the app. He's got
Yeah,
everything.
and that would even benefit drivers too. I mean, having the capability of the insurance, the insurance company can upload right into the app if with the driver's permission, can upload right in there and say, do you want your copy of your updated insurance? Your current one's about ready to expire or has
What?
expired.
And think about this. I got no problem with the DOT, but in a lot of states, you've had state troopers that's come in and had to start being DOTs, and that's caused some issues and stuff. And I was taught, and I'm not the best at it, so don't even act. I don't even act like I am, but be very respectful when you get pulled over, right? As a truck driver, I can only imagine being pulled over after working all day, and you got this guy wanting to go up and down your truck, and you just get ticked off because you're messing up my time. I got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you're sitting there and you're going through, a level 1, 2, or whatever, and the driver starts asking, for the DOT officer asks for your information. If you're able to pull up your phone or tablet, whatever, and you hand him that, you're going to look very professional, first of all. It's going to make his job easier, which is going to make you is not as antsy per se in how you respond to his questions because boom, he has everything right there. He can plug up to your ELD. He can have a lot of his stuff done very fast. You never know, in my opinion. You kill people with kindness. They always say, if you're that much prepared when he comes to your door, it can make a huge difference in how he treats
A
you.
lot of times those guys are just doing it because they have to meet their quotas. And if they're dealing with a driver who's aggravated, they're going to be aggravated. If they're dealing with a driver who's pleasant, a lot
Mhm.
of times those guys, I mean, I've spoken with drivers like he really should have, but I just killed him with Colin. He really should have came after me. He
Yep.
had, every right to write me a ticket, and he just let me go because I was cool with him. I was cool with him.
So
Kill them with kindness.
yeah.
They probably were just on a stop before, where the driver chewed them out, and you give them any excuse to,
Yeah.
write you a ticket, they sure will.
So I think that's going to be beneficial. Is if you look prepared and you would be with the app, I think that'll make a world of difference. And so there's so many things that I think me and you neither one had really thought would be additional benefits that we're figuring out as we go, and just look forward to those for sure.
Including TTR, right? We got some good
Yeah.
stuff going on here. We got to get some drivers on. Why don't you on your next or on your recruiting calls this week, let's pick somebody out to talk to next week. Let's get them on the show. And
I have a guy. Met him at the truck show. Name is Jerry. He has been I think he started in '89
okay.
on 3 trucking companies. One of them he left because he went out of
Wait,
business.
since '89, he's only worked for 3 trucking companies.
3 trucking companies. One of them he left because they went out of business. He was Landstar for over 21 years, and he deal with Landstar at the truck show, but he was going to retire, but they were going to, I guess, honor him, and of course he was getting fed while he was up there, so he stayed long enough to go to the truck show, and then he was going to do like one or two more runs after the truck show, and then he was retiring. And he had and I laughed at him, and I was, your wife was with me when we were talking with him, and I was just amazed. I was like, "Sir, most guys go through 3 trucking companies in 6 months." And
Yeah,
I
right.
said, "No, I'm at awe." I said, because that type of truck driver just doesn't exist anymore. And he was so pleasant and loved trucking, but he was tired, and I'm like, I don't blame you. You've been in trucking that long and so much,
I
you know.
yeah, I'd be tired. Man, I get tired just driving two
Yeah,
hours to Orlando. I don't know how you guys do it there on the road. I mean, I live on Celsius to basically keep myself up all day. I mean, it is, and I know that's not good for me, but man, I don't know how you
they
drive and you don't get tired. I mean, my wife's one of them. My wife can drive for hours and not get tired, not need anything. But man, I hit the road and I'm about an hour in and I'm like ready to just pass out.
Heck, I got to stop and use the restroom every hour or so. My daughter even laughed. We ain't never gonna get there, Dad. I'm like, hey, you ain't driving, so you just sit back and let me do what I got to do to get.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta get out, walk around. I mean, I just
Yeah.
get bored. I don't know. I don't you guys out there doing it. I've got a lot of admiration for you, for being on the
What?
road, for driving it. It's not easy to drive 10 hours through the night after waiting to load
Nope.
and keep yourself awake alone in the truck. It's not an easy thing, and I applaud you for it because we need you.
Well,
You truly keep America moving.
well, plus they have to deal with all these idiots on the road daily.
Yeah.
And I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. I cussed at least 3/4 of the way up to Louisville last week because every damn idiot stays in the left hand lane. They just
Hmm.
stay there. I don't understand. I do not understand. I done told my daughter, I said, I ever see you do that, I'm going to bump you off the road because
Yeah.
I'm teaching you not to do it. And, I've never had an issue when two 18-wheelers were beside each other on the interstate, and it took a while. You can't just sit there and ride. If you're a little bit faster, even if you're not with trucks being governed, that's just part of riding the interstate. And you have to realize it. A lot of people don't. So they just think, well, hey, I'm in the car. I'm just going to stay in the left hand lane all day. It's so dangerous to pass on the right hand side of the. I don't think people get that. You have a
People don't
big,
understand that. Yeah, no, they don't understand that.
and I stayed so mad, and I was, of course, there's so many trucks on I-40 and I-65. I mean, it's amazing the amount of trucks that you can see in a 10-minute span. And I was just like, how can you guys handle this crap all day? I've done had road rage and lost it. If I had to do this 12 hours a day in, day out, day in, because no one cuts on a break. Everybody's an a-hole to them. And, like when you get set in traffic, well, these poor guys, you're creeping up so you can stay in a gear, and then you got 90 idiots that come in front of you and just go on the shoulder to jump in front of you to get in one lane. I'm
Yeah.
like, why
And
you got
just
me?
think about when they're doing that in bad weather. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
It's
think
just,
about when they're trying to drive through a thunderstorm. I mean, and they got hail or what,
mhm,
snowy conditions, icy road conditions, and they got to handle that large piece of equipment, that large machine, and maneuver it and try not to hit your crazy ass on, while some little
no,
car that's, weaving in and out, not paying attention, drifting over, or
mhm.
like you said, hanging out in the left lane or passing on the right. I mean, it's just,
It
I've
is,
got a lot of admiration for what you guys do on the road, and
and you,
that's why I've stayed in trucking for as long as I have. I really enjoy, and that's why we developed this app. That's why we're on here as much as we can on this podcast for you. Hopefully, we give you something to listen to. I know we're not the funniest people by any means, but we definitely try and make it a little entertaining, try and make it a little controversial for you to have something for an hour to listen to on the road that's a little different.
that's right.
And people that love we're people that love drivers. We love you guys. We love you and girls, gals. Um, you know, we truly believe in what you're doing, and if you need anything, you let us know.
Yep.
Except for money, because we don't have a lot of that.
No, for sure.
But definitely keep listening. Definitely refer us to your friends. We're going to try and get on here a couple times. I'd like to get 3 shows in this week if we can. And hopefully we're congratulating Justin on a Florida victory next time we get on here.
All right, go Gators.
Go Gators. Go Gators. So,
yeah, countdown's here. Maybe that'll be
anything
something good.
else, Justin? The game's getting ready to start. The game's going to start at tip-off is at 8:50. Hopefully you guys can watch it. You think most of you guys have like YouTube TV? I'm curious about that. Like, how are guys turning on the YouTube TV with access to TV now? Do you set it, above the steering wheel? Is that it? Is that even? I don't think that's safe. I probably shouldn't have said that, but.
Well,
But you just turn it on and then listen? Do you listen to the radio? I mean, I know you're listening to us right now on Spotify, but what's your, I'm curious what these drivers are doing for media, because I doubt most of them are listening to the AM radio or FM as it is, probably Sirius XM, or
you can't.
I stream everything now. I mean, I use iHeartRadio and Spotify for everything I want. And then if I did have Sirius XM, but now the only thing I was using that for was really like the news, like TV news. But now I can just put on my YouTube TV and set it in the passenger seat and stream, if I want to listen to Fox News or CNN or whoever it is, or ESPN, or even put on a movie and just let it play, because I've seen it a million times. I'm curious what these guys do on the road for their media.
Yeah, it was because I started seeing more little dishes on trucks, so I don't know how big that's ever become. But nowadays, with streaming, I mean, I'm not a big TV person unless it's live sports. To be totally honest, if ESPN would come on with its own app, I probably wouldn't have television. If they would just come out with
The ESPN does have its own name.
well, yeah, but it's I'm not the biggest fan of the Plus. I want them to come out with an app kind of like Hulu and which they've talked about it. They actually talked about it one time of ESPN, Fox. I don't think NBC. I think it was them and Fox and of course ABC. They were going to come
ABC.
out with just a sports app that just like YouTube TV, and everything was on there.
Okay.
That's
All
because
sports channels.
yeah, just every sport where you could just get it in one place. I don't care really what it costs because I have Hulu. Only reason why I have Hulu is for SEC football and F1 racing. If I could just get all that in one thing, I wouldn't need to spend.
Man, F1 racing is huge. So did you watch the F1 racing show on Netflix?
Yes, yep, yeah, and
Yeah,
I tell you,
is that good?
yeah, I'll tell you something good to watch. It's Cinema. It is about the Brazilian driver back in the 80s and 90s. He
Okay.
is he is known probably as maybe the best driver of all time. There's a couple other ones that I'd argue is just as good, but it's a true story. It was really really good.
And
He's out.
what's that on?
That's on Netflix.
And it's called
Same,
Senna?
yeah, Senna, Senna. It was good.
Okay.
It's like a 4-5
I
series.
love the real life stories of, things that whether it's, you know, something sports related or not. I love,
I tell
I
you,
even like those like unsolved murder mysteries and stuff like that.
now there's another good one. Think it's Netflix. The '80s. I think it's called Lakers Celtics '80s.
Lakers Celtics. I watched the first 2
It
episodes of that, and
yeah.
that was really good. I haven't finished it.
Then I watched another
What's that?
that there's another one about the 50 and 6 because I had a family member on the 50 of the '60s Celtics team. That
Okay.
won it like 11 out of so many years, whatever. There was a good documentary of it too. I think it's a 30 for 30.
Okay. Your connection went out, I think. Are you still on there?
I'm still here though.
I think it said your connection. Did you get a call or something?
Nope, no,
Oh,
we still don't have the best and all that from the storms. They could be working on it.
no, okay. All right. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I'm a big TV nut. I'm a big TV nut. I love all the shows. I love, White Lotus and 1923. I love, all the I'm really into this Yellowstone kit. I love the Western shows, the all of
Well,
them.
now I will say this. I will not give a spoiler, but I was shocked at the ending of 23. I was shocked how
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I was, I was too. I was shocked, and yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, you need to watch it. 1923. It's with Harrison Ford. It's got a lot of actors in there, but um, it's a great show. I was a little disappointed with White Lotus's ending, but you
Yeah,
know,
I gotta watch.
yeah, White Lotus is. I've gotten into that quite a bit. Well, I got into that unexpectedly. I had no interest in watching it, and then my wife was sick, and she turned it on, and and then we started binging it, and then it just moves so slow. It moves so slow, um, and I like a little bit more action. So I just felt like they drug it out for 7 or 8 episodes. What it was.
They're trying to make all the money they could.
They could, yeah, yeah, and then they don't. And the problem is also like that was one reason why I like Cobra Kai. I'm a
Mhm.
big Karate Kid fan, and
You're showing
um,
your age there now.
huh?
You're showing your age when you say that.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm a Karate Kid geek.
There's this.
So and I got into it, but I love that they put all the episodes out all at once. You didn't have to wait, every week.
Yeah, I
So
do too. I've been hooked on binge watching. I hate, and it's not so much the commercials. I like taking a television show and turning it into a movie where I can just watch back to back to back to back, where it's all
mhm.
fresh. I don't have to wait a week.
Yep.
I really like that. I'll wait till a show's completely done, and then I'll sit down a weekend and watch it. I've been hooked on that, and I think that's how
That's
I don't.
probably what I need to do. Even for the next White Lotus, I probably just need to do that.
Yeah.
Although it's hard, I say that, but then once that show comes available, it's gonna be hard not to watch it.
Well, and two with social media, you can't watch social media. Just like I'll give you an example in sports. I couldn't stay up Saturday night all the way through the F1 race. I found it was like 1:30, and I just couldn't do it. So I taped the last 45 minutes of the race. And I was pretty sure Verstappen was going to win, but when I got up the next morning, I couldn't get on social media. And it's the same thing with these shows. They put so many clips out there. You'll find out what happened before
Yeah.
you know back here to watch it. And so that's the only downfall about doing that is the stuff gets thrown. Just like even I'll give you an example. 23, 1923. I got up Sunday morning and there was all kind of clips on it. And there was 2 or 3 clips that kind of told me how the finish was going to be. And I'm like, well, that don't even didn't really make sense. But and then after I watched the show, I was like, well, damn, the show hadn't even came out per se for me to watch the last episode, and it's already telling me what it is, and it's not where I can watch it. It don't come out till Sunday, sometime on Sunday, and
I'll tell you with 1923 though, those let's just say adult um portions of the show were hard. Some of those were hard to watch. I couldn't believe the way, you know,
why
and
was that?
I've heard stories about how women were treated back then, but
Oh yeah, but
have,
still, why was it in the show?
that's another point too. Like, I mean, why?
What is the storyline? You can
Yeah.
you can make a monster doing anything. Well, it was
I
the
mean,
same with the Indian. I didn't understand why that girl was in there per se, except just to explain how Indian women were treated. I
that's what
guess,
it
but
was. It was just trying to show, how they were treated.
I don't know
back
if he
then. And
I don't know if he
what's
was
that?
trying to spin off for that, maybe, on the Indian side, which would be cool to see
Yeah,
because
I think Taylor Sheridan wants to create spin-offs of all of these shows. I mean, I think it's kind of like the whole Star Wars saga where you can create
yep,
spin-offs off of
each
each
character had
individual character.
yep, three. And
So,
that I like the westerns, like you said, for one reason. It makes you think about how good we got now as a society. I mean, the
and
things,
where we've come, and
yeah,
watching even from 1883
oh
to
yeah,
1923, and then showing like, there are scenes where they're like, should we take the horses or a car? Well, you can get there faster in a car.
yep,
And it's all new to them. And
mhm.
the roads aren't necessarily paved. And then, driving it with those cars in snow, I mean, those tires were nothing. And
There's a
then,
bicycle.
and then there's no place to fuel. I mean, fuel was hard to come by unless you were in town. So, and they didn't
I was,
hold a ton of fuel.
I kept thinking like, okay, y'all don't never fuel up. How y'all gonna fuel up in Montana? I'm
Well,
like,
the second to last episode, second or third to last episode, whichever one it was, where where they stopped for fuel in Montana, and they stopped for a car, maybe chains on the tire. I think they had to put chains on the tires,
yep,
and they were like, "We're gonna go on. We're gonna we're pretty close." And Lay's like, it's not the snow that's even the problem. There's no fuel. So you run out of fuel and you're done. And you're stuck in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, it was just, it's just the things that those people had to go through to survive. And take their farm out of the way, just the normal day to day, of eating the same food probably every day of the week, working all day, out in the farm and coming home and really don't have anything to show for it, for a long period of time while your crops are growing or till you can, kill an animal to eat. I mean, you work a lot for nothing, per se. I can, people complain about not wanting to work and do different things nowadays and want to be lazy, but I mean, what they had to go through to survive, and everybody. I mean, I don't know if anybody had true friends back then because you could be killed at any moment, and there was not a lot of law that would get involved. I mean, just like in Yellowstone, they've got that place where there's no police jurisdiction. You can just dump a body,
Yeah,
and
there's no there's zero population in that area
yep,
at the train. What do they call it? The train station or something like that?
yeah, and they
Train station.
used that all the way up to the last show, and yeah, the regular Yellowstone. And so what and two, something that has really changed a lot is about the women. Women, of course, they were treated bad. Women are still treated bad in a lot of ways
They
now,
are.
but
Yeah.
they that's a different kind of woman back then they are now. Women back then, they were so tough. They had to be. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't guess they really had no choice. And
They had
you
to
know,
they had to know how to handle a gun, that's for sure.
I guarantee it. And they had to be able to do everything a man did. And they didn't get no respect for it. But they had to know how to work the farm. Plus cooking and washing and cleaning. And if they had to go out there and ride a horse to get the cows up or to
Yeah, and there were a lot of times where the husbands weren't around, so they had to take care of everything. They had to take care of the land. They had to fight off, maybe Indians that or people that came to try and, poach the land from them. I mean,
yeah, because
yeah,
that
it's a different world.
just
So,
no. I mean, crime and stuff now is terrible, and the things how humans treat each other are horrible. Back then, it made a little more sense because it was a lot of survival. It wasn't as much of trying to make yourself more prosper by killing people or stealing animals. It was a lot to do with survival and fight over land, who people thought it was their land, because of us, moving west. And it just, it makes to me a lot of the crimes that we have now so senseless and just so stupid that
yeah.
you have people killed over a pair of tennis shoes, or just shot because they looked at them wrong, or something, and for what our ancestors
Or
had to go.
stabbed with a knife. You heard about the kid in Texas. He was
Yeah,
stabbed in a fight. Teenage kid. I mean, just senseless.
it is. So yeah, we've come a long way as a society. I think we've probably done things that those people back in the 1800s never would have thought have been possible. But I wish we could find ourselves as a human race, because there is a lot of just dumb crap that gets done daily that there's no consequence. There's no consequences for those people, and I wish we was a little bit tougher on a lot of those kind of things. I know we can't because of all these humanitarian rules and different things, but I really wish there was more punishment for certain things, because I do think it would make an example to maybe make the next generation maybe not do some of the things. But
Well, and when there are repercussions for your actions, you tend to think twice about what you're doing. And when there's no consequences, and you're able to go in and rob a store and not be held accountable for it,
yep,
what do you think you're going to do? If you
we'll do
need
it.
that, you're going to go do it. You're going to go do it, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, you don't. A lot of people just don't think about what we have today to make that makes. It, I think it makes our lives more complicated. I think
Oh,
technology definitely makes it more complicated. You're
yep.
constantly being bombarded by information.
Hmm.
But it's amazing where we've come from. I mean, I even watched war games. I don't know if you know that with Matthew Broderick.
I
Uh,
don't think.
but it's essentially about how he's like his computer connects to a government computer and orders missiles, and is basically starting war between the
Mm.
United States and several other countries. But it's the idea of the internet with not even knowing what the internet is, or it
Right.
was going to be, because it was done in the 80s. You didn't even know it. You just thought it was cool. I mean, I even remember like when I was a kid and after seeing that movie, and then we got our first computer, thinking like it'd be cool if our computers could talk with other computers, but you didn't even know
Right.
what that was. You didn't know that that was called the internet. You didn't know that that's how, we would eventually get information. And,
No.
um, that
Well, even in the '90s, the late '90s, when I started my internet business on eBay, of course it was AOL, so you heard that ding dong, and it took
Mhm.
forever to get online. Even then, I would have never thought to where we have gotten to now. What, 20, 25 years ago?
Even 10 years ago, being able to, I mean, I remember using my phone to listen to sporting events and thinking
Mm.
this is incredible. Like, I
Right.
remember there was because I'm a big tennis nut, so there was a Roddick Roger Federer match that went on for like 8 or 9 sets. It was incredible. Maybe it had been 10 or 11 sets, but it was incredible. And we had to leave the house. And I remember I used something I was able to access it on my phone, and it was really spotty. I couldn't see it, but I could access the sound on my phone. And that was incredible. So to be able to watch movies now, this is also recent. We couldn't
Mm.
do this 10 years ago.
Nope.
Being able to watch shows and stream shows. I remember when Hulu was one of the first ones. You talk about Hulu, they were one
Mm.
of the first ones to stream TV. I mean, we did that back in 2018, I think. So you're talking seven
Yep.
years ago, 6, 7 years ago, when we started streaming TV, and now it's pretty much a normal thing to do. You don't have a
Yep.
box; it's all
Mm.
on your smart TV, and that was. I mean, even
And
we used to plug our TV up to a Fire Stick or a Roku device. You don't do that anymore. And
no,
that's just a few years ago.
you don't need anything but to plug it in to the outlet. That's all. You just need power to your TV. You're good. And TVs have gotten dirt cheap. I mean,
There is a
they're so cheap.
99-inch at Walmart, a 99-inch Roku, and I want to say it was $1,300
That's crazy.
for a
My
99-inch.
I bought a 42, no, a 40, I think it was a 46-inch, probably 15 years ago for that price.
Yeah.
And it's
I
now about
I rem I
300.
remember my uncle had like a 50-inch, one of those big square box, big screen TVs. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then we got one that was kind of widescreen when I mean, this was probably, and it was one of those it was still like a floor TV.
Mhm.
Um, and that was cool. But growing up, I only had, I think our TV may have been 32 inches or something like that, square
Yep.
box. And we didn't have a
Yep.
big screen or anything like this.
Well,
Just to,
I'll
we
tell
couldn't
you,
even imagine something like this.
I'll tell you something that's even shocking. So remember when video cameras came out? This was late 80s. My grandparents went to Sears. They love Sears and bought a video camera. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about it was one that you held up
Yeah.
just like, all right, and it had a backpack with it, a side purse. Basically, was a VCR in there before it was really a VCR because you used great big tapes.
Right.
That thing was like $1,300.
I believe it.
That hell of a lot of money back in like 87, 88, 89. They're not even existing anymore. No one has a video camera. You use your phone. Then I remember in the early 90s, my parents went to a store, and I don't know if anybody knows these stores, but they were called Service Merchandise. And we had them a lot through here in this part of the South. We went, I remember the night we went and picked it up. We went and bought it in Memphis. They paid like $900 for a VCR, a single tape VCR. Them things are $10 now. I mean, it is ridiculous how cheap stuff got because they got obsolete. And I remember my grandparents with that video camera. That thing weighed 30 pounds, and now you can do more with this, 10-ounce phone in the palm of your hand you ever could in that huge. I mean, it's just they're smart ass people in the world. I mean, and we're blessed to have them and to be able to have these nicer things. But I agree with you what you said earlier. It is very it's great to have, but I could promise you, and I went out west last year, and I'm going back out west in July. It'll actually be nice to get away for a few days. Just get away from a phone. Won't have much service. Just to get a break because it's with the jobs that we do, we're in front of a computer on a phone or something all day long, and then you're still tied to it in the evening times. Driver gives me a call. I take care of whatever needs to be done. You can't get if you're in certain jobs, you can't get away from your job to de-stress. And
No, you can't. And trucking is 24/7.
is
Trucking
my
is
daughter.
24/7. It's
Yep.
on the weekends. It never stops. And I think that's what keeps me engaged. But you're right. You're right. I mean, I don't go. It's hard to go a day without thinking about trucking. It's hard to go
Mm-hmm.
a day without thinking about drivers, about what drivers need, and
Yep.
um, it and even on now dealing with the app and dealing with technology, it's hard not to go a minute with like, how can I make this better for how can I make this better for carriers? And um, it's always important to de-stress. And that's why when I owned a trucking company and a driver said he wanted to get home, I said, well, get him home,
Right.
because you definitely don't want to be on the road, stressed out, missing your family or needing to get home to take care of whatever business you need to get home with. If your carrier's not getting you home, you need to think about switching your carriers, because when
It's
as long
important.
as it's not like within I say that, but also it's not like
Right.
if you just came out on Monday and it's already Wednesday, or it's only Wednesday or Thursday, and you're like, I need to get back home again. I mean, there are
Right.
extenuating circumstances for sure, but where you might need to get home. But this is if you've been out 2-3 weeks and you're
Yeah.
like, I gotta go home, I gotta see my kids, I gotta take care of my family. Your carrier needs to be getting you home.
Yeah. If you're being a more respectable truck driver in the sense of you're staying out not only for yourself but for your carrier, I agree. If you've been out a couple weeks and you say, hey, I need to be home by this date, I've given you 3 weeks, there shouldn't be any hesitation with the carrier getting you home because, and carriers know it, they just might ignore it. But I know it for a fact and will say it all day long. Those type of truck drivers are far and few between now than when it was 10 years ago about staying out. And if you're lucky enough to be a carrier or a dispatcher who has a driver that will stay out multiple weeks, take care of them when they want to go home, or they need to run through the house for a day for something. Go the extra mile for them because it's hard to find guys and gals that want to stay out multiple weeks. Most everybody wants to be home on the weekend, which is fine. That's become pretty much a normal. You just gotta be a smart dispatcher to schedule everything to where it works so people can get home for that every weekend. But the ones that want to stay out, yeah, you can't stress that enough. When they ask to go home for 2 or 3 days, or back through the house just to check mail, or to get resupply groceries or wash clothes, yeah, get them home because you know I can only imagine living in a truck 24/7 for weeks out. I don't think you have to worry about the social part because you're going to talk with other truck drivers at truck stops, and you're going to talk to people that pick up deliveries, and so you'll get your social part in. But just being confined to the same thing that not only are you sleeping in there, but you're sitting up front driving 12, 14 hours. Yeah, you need to be able to de-stress and feel confident that, hey, I've done my part out here for 2 or 3 weeks. I need to go home for a few days, and know that you're going to get home within a couple of days. They can't promise you they're going to get you home next day. I mean, most of the time you're not close enough to home, but definitely these guys need to de-stress, relax, stretch your legs, move about because they're doing what they're supposed to. So they need to get that in return.
That's right. Well, we are out of time. Beyond, I think this is the longest show we've ever done, and I think we said we were going to end the show about 50 minutes ago. We're approaching 2 hours now, which is awesome. But
Yeah.
Justin has a game to get to. It's 3 minutes to tip off, and I definitely don't
Don't.
want to let him miss any of that because that doesn't happen very often, and
No.
shouldn't happen very often to Florida fans. Let's just say that. But
Yeah, it's been a couple years since we've been back, so
yeah,
hopefully we'll do good as our teams back, or back to back teams. I don't think we'll make it back again next year, but so yeah, I'm gonna go enjoy this for sure.
yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and definitely tell your friends about TTR. Um, Everybody have a good night and drive safe.
Yeah, everybody be safe. Have a good evening. Go Gators.